And hi everybody, welcome back to my interviews channel. Haven't seen you guys for a while. It's been holidays, it's been lockdown. I'm trapped in Brisbane now, but it's hardly being trapped because I'm in my beautiful family home. And today I have with me Rob Grenville, who is one of my personal heroes. I know that I say that all the time, but honestly, this guy, you just wait. Welcome, Rob.
Thank you so much for having me, Sarah. It's a fantastic thing. You've just frozen, but I'll assume that everything's going fine.
Oh, well, I'm hoping everything will go fine as well. We'll only see on the playback. Am I back with you?
No, you're still frozen.
Okay.
We've got our thing in. Yeah, we're actually on a land. Oh no, you're back. You're back. You're back.
Okay. Look, that's just part of the hazards of this kind of thing. Zoom,
Yeah.
thank you, Zoom, most of the time.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't think you're going to be very happy about being interviewed the whole entire time, so I've decided to let you take turns with me.
Excellent. Excellent.
And
You're one of my heroes too.
yay! But I'm the boss first.
You're the
So
boss.
I'm going to ask you one
Okay.
question.
Yeah.
First of all, your website is unbelievable. I've been
good.
getting into the mood listening to all the songs on your website. So Rob is a singer, musician, guitarist, songwriter, author, teacher, and that's written on the website, robgrenville.com. But are you also a producer for other people? That's what I want to know.
I have been. I've done. I was fortunate enough way back in the day in 1987 to record at the ABC studios with the Moonee Valley Drifters with James Black producing. And so he's been around in my life for many, many years. And I've produced with him and engineered for him on a couple of different projects, doing bluegrass music and the band when I wasn't in it. I produced a record for them, did a live recording for them. But mainly I just do my own stuff these days. So there's so many people out there, Sarah. You know, there's just millions of people. Because of the technology today, it's a DIY world. So everybody's got a digital workstation, and so there's not much demand.
But you seem to be absolutely all over it. The quality of your recordings, and then when you put them out through Facebook, I have a list that fits on one hand of people whose videos I watch the entire way through when I go through Facebook. And you are the number one.
Really? Well, that's
Yes.
good.
And now,
I
that's
do
not
like-
to say I don't want to listen to other people's music. Of course I do. But there's something about your videos that just keep me right there. It's the song, it's the production, it's the vibe of you, and it's the integrity. And that's what I love about you. So how has the online thing changed your world?
Well, it's changed my world completely because back, 30 years ago when I was playing with the Moonee Valley Drifters and we were doing that album, it was an analog world. And so we actually had a vinyl record and we sold vinyl records in record shops. And so since the digital world's come about now, I must admit, Sarah, I'm quite bewildered by it. Because I know how to use it. I know how to make things because I know how to use a digital workstation. I use Logic Pro X, and I film those little videos just on my camera, on my phone, and then I record them, with high quality microphones, and then marry the two together on another thing called ScreenFlow. So I know how to do all that. But once you've done that, in this world, which is not my world, it's my son's world and younger people's world. There's probably 20,000 people a day around the world putting things online, putting things on Spotify. And so how to actually get listened to is completely beyond me. I have no idea. So I love making things, but I don't know how to sell them.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for, to help you sell your stuff. And your stuff is so worth listening to. And I noticed that on your website, I can listen to it for free. But there are so many people out there who want to support what they love. So, yes, thank you for giving it to me for free. But after this interview, I'm going to go and buy it. Because when I love something, I want, Bandcamp. So, Rob Grenville at bandcamp.com.
Yes.
You can find everything about this wondrous man on his website. Go and look it up. I mean,
my ego, Sarah.
but I mean, you're sitting at home producing these absolutely awesome songs. I mean, I wouldn't say that this music, I'm in a different age bracket. I grew up with thinking that Michael Jackson, Madonna, George Michael, all those people that they were my heroes. I didn't get that blues, early rock vibe until recently.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for all ages to experience all music, just the same way as I believe classical music should be like that too. When you learn classical, you've got to go right back to the medieval period, earlier even. It's really important to experience all these amazing movements of music. So yeah, that's what I think.
Well, and from my perspective, as I'm 67 in a week or so, and my sister is 9 years older, so she brought home Elvis Presley, Johnny Horton, Leslie Gore. I played all those records. My brother, John, he is 4 years older, and he was in love with Motown music.
Right.
He bought the Four Tops, Tammy Terrell and Marvin Gaye, the Supremes. When he brought home Lady Soul by Aretha Franklin, I wore that out. And Wilson Pickett. I wore those records out, much to his chagrin. But then by the time the early 70s came, I sort of fell out of love with rock and roll, not soul music, but the best of it was behind us by that time, in my humble opinion. And I went all the way back to Fats Waller, Count Basie, Gershwin, George Porter, Ellington, Irving Berlin, all those beautiful songs by those wonderful artists with Billie Holiday, Ella Fitzgerald, and I just got lost in that music. So I didn't really listen to anything commercial in the 80s. Wasn't listening to the radio, so I missed all that.
That is so interesting. That is so interesting because you do have a slight 80s synth vibe, stadium sort of vibe in some of your arrangements of your songs. So you mustn't have missed the whole thing. Yeah, you've got a little bit of, what's his name, Foster, who arranged things for Celine Dion, that kind of thing. Yeah, yeah. So you can say you ignored the 80s. My husband says that too. He's about your age. But no, it sort of seeps in somewhere, doesn't it? But there's such a beauty to that early pre-rock music. And that links up to the classical in a sense, because all of those people arranging in America at that time were the refugees from Europe from the Second World War. So it's kind of interesting that it all in the 50s and all the 40s, 50s and 60s melts together to make this completely new style of music, which is just as American as hip hop or bluegrass or any of those styles too.
And it is very American because I'm steeped in America because I play in the Moonee Valley Drifters. We play honky tonk music, and Tom Porcel is our band leader, and he was born in Detroit, and he saw everybody. He was the kid. He used to sneak into concerts when he was 15 and 16 and see John Lee Hooker and you name it. He's seen everybody. And so he sort of brings a really American thing to country music. So we play honky tonk kind of music. I just play the guitar. And I love doing that. I love playing music for working people and watching them dance and have a good time. So this stuff that I do, I've been writing songs for all my adult life, but I just write them as a sort of a diary entry, and then I put them in a drawer, and then I forget about them. And I bought them out only 2 years ago to do that first album, Let's Talk About Love. And the oldest song on that's from 1979.
Oh, wow.
And then during COVID, I thought, oh, well, I've got nothing else to do, so I'll do some more, and I'll do some videos.
Yeah, fantastic. And you do have a really American style. And what that also means to me is high quality production value. That's what it means to me. There's no detail left just to chance. Everything's rehearsed, everything's planned, everything's prepared, and everything's repeated until it's spot on. Whereas the Australian style can sometimes be, it'll be all right, or we'll just leave it 70%, it's fine. Or, well, we can't pay people enough because there's not enough support for this kind of music, so we'll just do it on one rehearsal. So that's what I love also about your videos. So everyone, robgrenville.com, check out the videos. He's on Facebook too, if you don't mind lots of people checking you out on Facebook.
No, I'm happy to. Look, it's just all, to me, Sarah, I don't actually take myself all this stuff too seriously. It's just great fun to make these records because I play everything. And when you say the high production values, I don't have any equipment other than a desktop computer. I don't have any outboard gear. I just use what's inside the Logic Pro X program. There's nothing, there's no compressors come from outside. So it's just the basic tools you've got inside there, enough. My philosophy, if you put good shit in, you get good shit out. And you sort of fuck around with it and try and, use your ears to get it to sound good.
Yes, but you have to have a creative mind in the first place to know what kind of thing you're going for. I mean, I don't have a creative mind. Don't argue with me. I don't have a creative mind. I go into GarageBand, try and write an electronic music track, and I have too much choice because I don't have that idea of what I want in the first place to refine that and just choose the things I need. I am just blank slate for other people's creativity, and I'm really happy to do that. But isn't it great? Thank you. And I pride myself on that. I don't think it's bad. I think it's great to be able to facilitate someone else's creativity. But that's what these interviews are all about. I want everyone to know about you and your music. And you're not just a mimic of old styles either. You do make it your own. And some people complain about this kind of retro thing that's happening. You get bands
They do.
That try and be all really authentic and in a particular style. That happens in classical music as well. You've got the early music people who will only use a particular gauge of gut string, and they won't play in anything other than a stone church. And that's great, kind of cool. It's like a museum piece in the sense. But what you do isn't like that. I'm sure you are a great mimic when you have to be, but
I don't have to be. I've never had to be that, and I don't actually know because I don't read, and I don't read.
I didn't know that.
No, I can read a sort of a lead sheet,
a chord chart, right?
Yeah. But I can't sight read things. It's never been something that's of interest to me. So I live and play pretty much in the moment. So I don't really rehearse. I've got my bag of things that I can do, but I'm playing in the moment, and that's all I got.
So when you do those videos, how much of it is planned and how much of it is just letting go?
Well, most of the time, when I sing the tracks, I get those because they've gone around in my head for so long. When I get up at night to go to the toilet, when I go back to bed, what I do is run through the tunes. So most of the work is done without an instrument in my hand. It's done in my head. And so by the time I get there, I've just got to find out where it is. And then, I do a take, and I might do 2 or 3 takes, and that's it. But I've already done the backing track. So I've already put down, I've got a click. I play in a bass line. I've got a beautiful Yamaha piano, I play in the bass. And then I've got a snare and a hi-hat, and then I'll play in the drums. And if I had to add more, I'll do some MIDI kick drum or some cymbals, all MIDI, just played in. And when I'm happy with that, and I'm happy with the groove, then I'll have a go at playing the guitar or sometimes the piano, and just do it until I think, okay, that's all right. But as long as the backing track's good and the sound's good, and then that's it.
Yeah, cool. You've got some nice MIDI string files there, I think. Have you? Have you bought some nice string sounds?
No, I haven't bought anything. That's just all inside Logic.
Amazing. Oh, well, it's much better than it used to be, those string effects, isn't it?
I was amazed because there's one song on the first album called The Fire, because I lost the property up at Coffs Harbour in a fire.
Oh, no.
Which broke my heart, I have to say. And I wrote that song in 1994, and it sat in a drawer. And when I was doing it, I just did it with a gut string guitar and vocals. And then there was an interlude, which I put these, and I just had a go. Go, that's it. So it's just 2 voices, There's a couple over there. I put some double stops in, but it's just 2 voices, a cello and a viola, I think, I chose.
Unbelievable. Well, these songs are great. I highly recommend them. robgrenville.com. And if you want to stalk him on Facebook, it's Robert Reed, Reed Grenville, in Facebook. So just check that it's the right guy. I'm his friend. So, just get in there through me. Now, you are not only a writer of notes, but you are a writer of words. And there's this wonderful book that's out that people can look at. It's called Hubris. Love, I understand, but sex is strange. So again, that's on the website. Take a look at that. But I mention that because I don't know if this is a secret. I guess you'll tell me. But there's another book coming out, and Rob has the reason I know Rob is
This
that
is
when he
right.
was writing this a long time ago, he started this a long time ago,
Yeah, 10 years
and
more.
how many years ago?
Well, I'd be 10 or 12
Ro-
when. So can I tell the story?
Yeah, please, please, please.
So I'm writing this book, and this book is called Other Kinds of Music. And one of the characters is a jazz musician, a young jazz musician, a young guy who's painfully shy, but he's an extraordinary musician. He also plays incredible jazz guitar, and the other character is a young cello player, a young girl who's just joined the MSO. So I get to this point in the story, and I'm thinking, I don't know what I'm talking about here, so I better find out. So I go to the MSO into the building, and there's a little notice board. So I put a notice on the board: are there any musicians in the MSO who would be willing to talk to me about their craft? And of course, you got in contact with me, which I was just so chuffed. And we had some fabulous conversations. And as you probably read, they've made their way into the book. So I've still got to get some feedback about that.
Actually, I'm halfway through it for the second time, and it's 10 years is a long time. Now, as you know, I have a podcast called Splitting Hairs with my student, because we have a lot of conversations about classical music and the mythology surrounding it. So as I'm rereading your book, the things I remember helping you with at the time, I don't believe anymore. So we're gonna have to have another set of conversations about that. I've marked it all down. Don't worry, it's going to be great.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And it's just amazing. It's like reading a diary, because I remember helping you with those points, and then I said to myself at first, I'm just going to go to the chapters that you wanted me to read. But I started reading it, and I'm like, no, I love this book. I'm going to read it again every chapter. That's why it's taken me so long. So that's Other Kinds of Love. Stay tuned for that. Let's get that show on the road and get this written, get it out there. That's what I say.
Well, it's just been, you've got a proofread version. So if you do find any typos, tell me.
Oh, my mum found some. My mum read it in 2 days, and she's the sort of person that marks down every single typo.
Detail syndrome.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, cool. So our lives are connected.
Yes, that's right, exactly.
Through music.
So, indeed. And that's the thing that fascinated me, was that we both have pretty highly developed skill sets in our own way. And your skill set just fascinates me, because, and watching some of your Splitting Hairs, for instance, on when you have to go to a recording studio to do movie soundtracks and all that sort of stuff, and when you listen to young people who write things, and you observe that, well, that probably looked good on paper, but when you've got a violin in your hand, it's not really working for me that much. And so you've got this extraordinary skill set, and you also commission lots of work. And it fascinates. One of the things that really fascinated me about you back then, Sarah, was that you love when pop stars, rock stars, non-classical singers come to the MSO and you back them. And you like doing that.
I love doing that. I mean, that's the era you were talking about. Nelson Riddle and Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, and those unbelievable arrangements. This is still going on. Harry Connick Jr. did it. That Foster guy did it for Celine Dion. These arrangements are stunning, and they keep the orchestra alive. Why wouldn't I want to do that stuff, you know?
What are you, as you told me back then, a lot of your fellow orchestra members don't.
Yeah, I tell you why they don't like it. Because our skill set, especially if we're above a certain age, our skill set only included the classics.
Yes.
So some of my colleagues did not grow up even watching Harry Potter, let alone fantasize about playing the soundtrack. So you're talking about an age bracket of people who don't want to feel uncomfortable in their job, because they want to show that they can do something well. So as soon as something new comes, or something too loud, or something in a terrifying venue, as soon as that stuff comes, they immediately don't want to do it. We did the worst possible thing that an orchestra could have done. It was at the Maya Bowl. It was with two of the greatest DJs of all time. But once they switched their stuff on, the orchestra could not be heard, and we were all being damaged. Like, it was, I mean, from a sort of historical point of view,
Right.
I was so excited about it. But
Yeah.
from a physical and what's the
Yeah.
point of view, we shouldn't have done it. So there
Well, that's the
is,
producer's problem. I mean, who was producing this? Who was
but these
doing
guys are
unadapted or-
famous. These
Yeah.
guys were famous. They go around the world playing with symphony orchestras and sell out stadiums. Who's going to argue with that income?
Oh, right. Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
Well,
I mean, it's kind of cool. There's an orchestra on the
yeah.
stage, it's big rave DJs and all of
Yeah.
that, but you can't actually hear the orchestra. So, what you're talking about, singers, songwriters
Yeah.
coming in, the orchestra's backing them, you can hear the orchestra.
Oh,
Even if it's like a big band style orchestra with a few strings in the
yeah.
Nelson Riddle kind of way, that's worth it. You can hear everybody. You can hear the string
Yeah.
lines. There's an interaction there. It's not just a tokenistic orchestra stuck on a big stage, you know?
Well, when Elton John did his
Well, exactly.
record back in the day, which
Yeah.
must be what 35, 40 years ago, and I think he used the Sydney Symphony.
He did. He came to Melbourne. He used
He came to
MSO.
Melbourne,
Yeah.
and they were superb, and he had an arranger who was absolutely fabulous. That was just stunning.
Yeah. This is royalty. I mean, he's
Yeah.
only going to use the best arrangers and
Indeed.
do what's the most beautiful and amazing. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But
So-
this kind of activity saves the symphony orchestra. If we didn't do the Harry Potters and the Jurassic Parks and we even did the Godfather. Do you know there's about 10 minutes of orchestral music in there? You know,
right?
we just sat there on the stage for most of it and just watched the movie. It was great.
So how did that come to be that the MSO, or was that the MSO, or were you a hired gun with somebody else at that?
Sometimes it's sometimes that and sometimes the other way. Sometimes we make the show and sell it to other orchestras, and sometimes we're just the guns for hire. Whenever it says in our roster commercial hire,
Right.
it means we're just being hired for whoever. You
Okay,
know.
right.
Or whomever, if my mother ever listens to this, or my sister, whomever.
So what's the future of it though, Sarah? I mean, I know for me personally, the future doesn't actually look that great, partly because, my generation, I'm getting too old to really sell it too hard.
Nonsense.
Oh, no, I don't have the energy. I've just, to go out there and,
Right, you feel like if you went out there and did it the new way, you'd have to start again. You'd have to. No. What you've got is great. What you've got is great.
Yeah, look, and that's good enough. That's good enough. But in terms of, I did put my first album on Spotify, and I got, there was, I don't know, some thousands of hits, of which I was paid 78 cents.
Yeah, but that's
that?
once you reach critical mass, you can't just sit there. It's like putting on a gig and expecting people to come, but you haven't told them about it. It's still up to you to get people to that show.
I understand that. I understand that. I
Yeah.
understand. But the sheer quantity of music that's going on to and that's the other thing that's interesting, Sarah. You really like the quality of the sound that I produce. Whereas a lot of other people are not really interested in that. That's not a draw for them. And in fact, it could be a negative.
You don't know that because those people
No, they
you're
do.
talking about, they tell you, oh, Rob, I'm not interested in your high quality vids. Give us something.
They don't say that. They say things like, I just love this little thing I saw on YouTube, and they were just in a room and it was really raw and it was great. And I'm listening to it going, I can hardly listen to that.
No, don't even waste one more second on those people.
The playing's great, but it's just all woofy in this bad air with these condenser microphones, and it just
No. Don't even bother with those people. It's
But,
fine.
a lot of people like that. But you don't
have to worry about those people. You need to worry about my audience that love me, and if I love you, then they're going to go, oh, who's Rob Grenville? He seems like such a jolly person. And in this world full of negative energy, people being sucked into this vortex of doom, and you are not that person. I mean, look, your catchphrase, which you were trying to remember before, I wrote it down the other day. Sarah, I have no expectations. It's all just a bit of fun.
And it is. It's all just a bit of fun. It's all, and that's the thing. And it depends, of course, it isn't a bit of fun if it's your living.
True.
And it was my living for in the 90s, and, for 15, 16 years, I had a trio that played Gershwin, Porter Ellington, all that kind of music. But when Steve Dagg and Rob Marty and myself started this trio, we did it for the money. So we weren't playing for audiences, but we were very good at delivering for clients.
Mm-hmm,
They paid us really well. But that's kind of gone, really.
That has gone, because that relied a lot on fake money. It was before global financial crises and all of that, where people just had money to burn. My sister played on Christopher Skase's yacht, and he just wanted them to keep going and would just throw cash at them. I mean, it's a totally different era now.
We've rocked up to gigs on camels. We've done all sorts of silly things like that, and played for car companies and done promo stuff. And it was great fun, but I had to earn a living. I couldn't really afford just to go playing gigs for audiences for $50, so that's where we've got back to now, which is just tragic.
Yeah, well, that's right. And I'm thinking that those colleagues of mine that you mentioned who find it really uncomfortable and awkward to play movies and all of that, we're on a salary. We are really, really lucky post-COVID to still have a job. A lot of orchestras just folded. A lot of our friends in this industry got just unemployed within a day. And so I'm personally grateful for even having a job. And that's the reason I can support others. You mentioned before, I commission people, and I use absolutely all of my spare money to do that stuff.
Good on you, Sarah. That's just so great.
And I don't know what kind of money I'm going to be falling back on in the future, because I don't have any of that. So it'll be you and me busking on the street.
Well, I am going to go busking.
Great.
I'm going to use those backing tracks, and because I couldn't even put a band together to do all that music, because I'd need 4 bands. There was all these different skill sets and styles, and just it's not possible. So I'm going to go busking with it. So if you see me out in the street,
fantastic. You have to let me know when you're going to go busking. We'll put it on Facebook if anyone's in the area. Totally.
So why not? And that's what I say. It's a bit of fun now, because at the point of my life where I'm just doing it for the fun, and the idea of doing it commercially, well, it just isn't realistic. So I love to play gigs. I've done 3 musical things this week. Funnily enough, one of them I did. The first one was with Steve Dagg and Shane Ryle, who's an incredible guitar player. And Steve's a beautiful sax player. And Jesse Mack playing a Paul Davies bass.
Oh, Paul Davies, my incredible husband, everybody. Those of you who don't know, I play his violin and I play his electric violins, and he's just amazing. Thank you for mentioning his.
And this bass, Jesse bought it off him just before Christmas. It was one of his 12-year-old basses that had come back in the shop. And it was absolutely stunning, I have to say. It had a real growl. Ooh, you sound good.
Woohoo! Excellent. Thanks for mentioning him. Awesome. So, look, what are we going to do? You stay positive and focused on just having that bit of fun, not turn nasty. And I'm going to just continue to be grateful for what I've got. Now, do you have any questions for me?
Your skill set absolutely astounds me. So the thing I want to know is, like, when you look at a score, you don't actually look at a score, you look at a part, don't you?
Yeah, if I was a real dork, I'd get a score out and look at a score and see where my part fit in. But I look at a part.
But you don't sort of have to do that, though, in many respects, I would imagine, because of the household that you're sitting in now and the education that you got almost pre-verbally. Now, you have the canon playing around you, so you kind of know it, don't you?
Okay, what you're assuming is that I had an immersive experience in music from a really young age. Now, that's true. That's true. I was going to see orchestra concerts when I was about 7 or 8.
Yes.
Mum used to have soirees in the house every month. So I'm sitting there watching countertenors and harpsichords and viola da gambas and opera singers and string quartets as a kid, right, in my own home. So I'm thinking, well, that's normal. That's great. Kids don't think about it when they're immersed in it.
No, but it's not just the instruments. You're hearing all these pieces of music. So when this part is put in front of you, you don't really need to look at the score, because you've sort of got it in your head, haven't you?
No, that's not the way it works. Yeah, I know what you're asking. Okay, I know what you're asking now. No, if I have to play Symphony No. 7 by Gustav Mahler, okay, if that's on the schedule coming up, I'm like, oh my God, I have to get my practice part. I have to get YouTube up with the pause button ready, the music here, YouTube there. Every 8 bars, I have to stop, rewind, try it again, play along with the orchestra. That is, for me now, the quickest way of learning is listening to it. But in the old days, before YouTube and all of that became that kind of tool, you'd have to get your practice part and practice it in isolation. So when you're talking about this really incredibly complex music, practicing a part in isolation is horrible. It's boring, it's awful, it's painful. So the best thing now is get that YouTube up. That's my advice to anyone, you know, who wants to learn a part quickly, is if you can, play along with the music if there's a recording, you know. But with new music, well, that music I commission, it's the first time anyone's played it is me. So I'm getting that score for the first time. And I'm lucky I can read music quite well. I'm not the best reader that I know. I'm probably a 70% sight reader. My brother he feels like he can barely sight read. So anything he plays, he has to learn really, really well and slowly. So he's not really cut out for the symphony world where you're changing up programs every week. He gave it a go, but it was really too stressful for him. And then, and I know some friends at work, they don't even have to, they need one go and they've got it. I'm nowhere near that, nowhere near. So it's not to do with whether you've even had an upbringing. It's actually to do with how well your brain reads abstract symbols, to tell you the truth.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, did you know, Sarah, that on YouTube that you can slow everything down and keep it in pitch? Do you know how to do that?
But I would need it to be at speed quickly. I would need it to be at speed because I need to know what the worst case scenario is at all times.
It's got to be tempo.
Yeah, exactly.
But listeners, you can actually, there's a little circular button at the bottom of YouTube if you're listening to the video and you want to learn a guitar part or whatever.
Right.
Slow it down 75% to 50 to 25%, really, and it will keep it in pitch.
I think my son knows how to do that. That's how he taught himself guitar and keyboard and so on. He slowed it right down. Yes. So you talk about how you're not techie or anything, but you are. You're better than most people my age.
Yeah, I know how to. I'm a bit of a tech nut, but that's just, I like making things, and so if you want to make something, if you want to build a table, you got to learn how to use a saw.
And I bet you can build a table too, can't you?
Yeah, I like making everything. I like making tables and records.
I think that adds to your good mood. So one of the questions I had for you is, how the hell can you just be in a good mood ever, actually, in this world, in a world that wants you to hate on everything? And I think it's because you know how to make things, and a lot of us only know how to buy things or want things.
It does make me happy, but it's not the reason that I have my temperament, though. I mean, I'm a student of many things, but that's just my style. And
just born that way.
I had two loving parents. We've got very, very old friends. I've got just a wonderful wife. I'm married to my best friend, and we've had a great life, and I've got a lot to be happy about. Why?
Yes.
I'm so lucky that you'd be churlish to be.
Oh my God! You see, everyone, this is why you have to reward this man for being so awesome. Buy his albums, books. RobGrenville.com. Look, I think there's a song for everybody. Fantastic. All right, look, I reckon that's a beautiful interview, Rob. Thank you so much.
I can't thank you enough, Sarah. That's wonderful. For somebody to take an interest, because, I'm sort of a backroom boy, really.
You're more than interesting. Come on. You're compelling and a fine example to us all. Keep it up.
Excellent. Fantastic.
All right. Awesome. Take care.
Take care.
Thanks for coming.
See ya. Bye-bye.